Sensation. I'm your host, Dan. And in this episode, I'm going to be looking at a couple of magazines from the early 90s covering lowbrow art. The first one is this magazine, premiere issue of Art Alternatives. And, this stuff that they're calling lowbrow art. Now, in this issue, it says History of the Underground Comics. It's not quite what this is, but it does have S. Clay Wilson, Robert Williams, Spain, and Joe Coleman, all underground artists. So, not too far off there. But the idea is, to see color work of these guys produced anywhere was pretty rare. And usually you had to be happy with one of them at a time being covered in a magazine. To have a whole magazine covering these guys and reproducing this kind of artwork in like a slick magazine, that was pretty radical looking kind of thing. But the timing on this was just right. Tower Records was big at the time, and these things were all distributed through Tower Records, and I think they did pretty well for them there. I used to see pretty good stacks of them in there, selling pretty well, seemed like. So let's flip through this one. This one's from 1992. The first one up is Joe Coleman. And I love Joe Coleman's stuff. You see, how detailed this work is. He works pretty big, and he manages to put a lot of details in there. The first several paintings in here are autobiographical ones. A lot of times he'll take somebody from popular culture or a popular culture idea or lowbrow culture idea and run with it. But here it's here he famously got in trouble for killing mice live on stage, which, debatable how how much he should have gotten in trouble for that. I don't think it ended up being very much, but there you go. Rodent killer. Here's a self-portrait with little details of things that were important to him in his life. A good slice of pie and breakfast there. That's the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde Aurora model kit. There he is in one of his stage things where he sets off explosives on his chest. There's a pretty lady with a pickled fetus, and just on and on. A huge amount of little details. There he is as a fetus, talking about his birth. Carnival Sideshow, the colors, these wonderful colors, and kind of like the style of this artwork is heavily influenced by Carnival and Sideshow artwork. And so, that's a big influence on him. So here we are with a cavalcade of people. It's nice if you get a book where these are reproduced bigger, because there's so many little details to look at and notice. And just wild stuff. Here's what looks like a doctor's waiting room. It just says waiting room. I don't know if it's the emergency room at the hospital. Looks like it's a doctor's office, because that's a pretty shabby couch there. But you see the kind of people who are waiting, the kind of problems they have. Giant tumor popping right out of his head. Cyclops. So that's pretty great stuff. Nice to see. There's been a couple books. I don't know if any of them are in print right now, but if you can get one of those larger, oversized art books of his stuff, I guarantee you'd love the hell out of it. This magazine also, they review some comics, mixed media stuff, performance art and things like that. Now here's an article on tarot cards, and some of these tarot cards are putting a modern spin on the older ideas. Tarot cards are huge right now, too. Now, here's a weird article. You can't preach from a Tijuana Bible. You know, at the time that this was being printed, now, of course, the undergrounds had come out and long before this, you know, and there was all kinds of hardcore sex in a lot of them. So the Tijuana Bibles, which were these little things that were larger but kind of the same format as Chick Tracts, and they were sold under the counters. They were dirty comics, and you know, they had famous comic strip characters that were popular at the time, or movie stars, stuff like that. I'm trying to find the date for when the first Tijuana Bibles are. Tijuana Bibles, they're saying that they somewhere between 28 and 30 is when they really started. And the funny thing is, they had this article here about the history of the Tijuana Bibles. They don't reprint anything from it. I mean, you see this one image here. This image, you can't tell from this, but that's actually supposed to be that guy's penis. And he's having to, his erection is so long, he's having to hold it in this sling. And he and this dog are racing away. But, you know, like I said, in the 80s and 90s, for whatever reason, there were a lot of Tijuana Bibles reprinted in comic book format, not the original format, but in a regular comic book format. And also, there were a couple books that came out, and, you know, reprinting them in a larger size. If I come across them, when I come across them in my going through my storage locker, I might put a little bit of them out, because I did get some of them. I you know, they did things like Popeye and you know, Popeye the Sailor and things like that. He looks like the Flesher Brothers Popeye from the cartoons more than the newspaper one. But anyway, it's weird to see these see an article about him and not see any panels from it. Then there's a long interview here with Robert Williams. And you get to see, he's another guy, just like with Coleman. His stuff is bursting with so many little details. And again, he's basically covering the lowbrow art that he grew up with. All these different little things are influences on him. I like the way this guy, he's drawn the that looks like the kind of skin stretching, flesh tearing stuff from something like John Carpenter's The Thing or something. You know, but that guy's tearing off another guy's head. You know, so there's nude women and, you know, crazy looking monsters and just all kinds of stuff there. I really like this one of the hitchhiker. I like this monster a lot. It's one of my favorites there. That's a kitchen sink. Put out a trading cart set of some of his stuff. I have that one. It's nicely done, but, you know, because his paintings are so huge, it's just like little details from it. There's Debbie Harry famously got picked up by some kind of creep at one point when she was younger, when she was hitchhiking, and she had to jump out of the car to get away from this guy, and she seems to think it was Ted Bundy. That's her memory of it, but the timeline doesn't really match up, so a lot of people say couldn't have been, but who knows. And definitely it was some kind of creep who was meaning her harm. So anyway, this is his drawing of it. I don't know that he really captures Debbie Harry at all, but it's a cool painting there. I'm not really sure about this guy's stuff. It looks interesting, but I don't really know his work. Guy Atchison. And then here's Spain. And Spain has some color stuff from the covers of his stuff mostly, but you know, they put his stuff, you know, because they have a color section at the beginning, then there's some black and white pages, and then there's some more color. And I guess, you know, they didn't have enough color work to do with Spain, and so he's got his stuff on the black and white pages. But you know, it's great. I like how big they did this panel from his comics. These drawings. I mean, the stuff looks good. These pages look great. And then there's a guy. Here's the next one. S. Clay Wilson putting the UGG into Underground. And it's nice to see so much color. S. Clay Wilson. Who doesn't love the Checkered Demon? Again, this is another one where the amount of detail in this is crazy. These Underground guys, you see where they talk about the outlaw comics of the 80s, and part of what makes them the outlaw comics of the 80s and 90s is how much ink the guys would put on the paper, how much detail, whether necessary or not in some cases. And you definitely see that in these Underground guys, you know, these older guys doing their thing. So, and there's a giant 2-page spread. So that was Alt Alternative. This is the first issue. I think there were a couple other issues, but there were a couple other magazines that came out in the wake of this. And there might even been one before this. I'm really not sure now. And as I go through my mags, I might find some more. I'll maybe post those. But in the same box, I also found this. This is from 1995. This is Robert Williams magazine, Juxtapoz. This is issue 4, and you know, this he must have started this after this Alt Alternatives. I don't know if Alt Alternatives had already folded or went bust, or what, you know, what the deal is, or whether Robert Williams just saw it and said, "Hey, I could do better than that." But he started this. It was supposed to be an alternative to what he saw as the kind of art that was really popular at the time, but he didn't think it was all that much. He thought lowbrow art was much better. The funny thing now is that Juxtapoz is still being published, but it has nothing to do with lowbrow art. And as a matter of fact, it covers some of the stuff, not all of it. Some of it I think Williams would probably like, but some of it is definitely the kind of stuff that he was kind of like, you know, the Emperor's New Clothes kind of thing, where people were just, you know. But be that as it may. So here's issue 4 of this. So, you know, I think this is pronounced Zeno, but it could just be just no. But you know, you'll recognize a lot of the work in here. And here's some more S. Clay Wilson. Let's flip through this bad boy and see what we got here. There's an ad for Fantagraphics. Just to give you an idea about the kind of stuff that they were doing at the time. There's Chris Ware. That's wasn't published. Was that issue published by them? They also sometimes distributed things from other publishers that they really liked. That may or may not have been them. That might have still been. Well, anyway, I'm not sure. There's Bitchy Bitch, A Bitch is Born. That's from Roberta Gregory's comic Naughty Bits, which I always accidentally call Bitchy Bitch, which is the character, but it's really called Naughty Bits. The first collection of Jim stuff. There's a Joe Coleman book. That's a really great book. Birdland, which is one of the dirty books that Fantagraphics put out. It's Jaime Hernandez doing sex comics. There's Buddy Bradley, Fritz the Cat, Klaus, Spain, just all kind of, that Wolverton book is great. Oh, and then they did this weird thing where they show different people at different art shows, which I almost thought was a parody of like what would be in like city papers and art magazines, because it was. But I think he really, he did like to show off who all was coming to these shows, I guess. So anyway, there's that Alex Gray. I'm familiar with his work. It is weird as all get out. I can't say. I think I have one thin book he did, but I didn't really follow him. I did. Here's some ads for some great stuff. Some talk about some shows. Hot rod photography. Miriam Kim. Now here's the Zeno. This was pretty cool. I like his art. That's really great. These are a lot of fun. He did a Popeye illustration that I just love to death. Just really, really fun stuff. Let's see here. Here's the S. Clay Wilson. More Checkered Demon. More craziness. I do like getting to see this S. Clay Wilson stuff in color like this. It's too bad he didn't get to do more full color stuff. There's a couple courtroom drama, courtroom art. Ads, reviews. That Roadside America one is that was a fun book. Let's see, more on exhibit stuff. Lydia Lunch writing a column. An article on some people who are doing collecting of original stuff, including original Wolverton posters and stuff. So anyway, that was a quick look at some of these lowbrow art books, comics that came out, magazines. Why don't I call them magazines? Anyway, that's just a quick look. I hope you like that. There's some more as Juxtapoz got on. They got into more people that I didn't recognize, but it turned out to be great. So as I find those, I might do another episode. All right, that's it for now.